Hello, everyone. Hi. Hope everyone is doing fine. So, first of all, I welcome you all to this live session, live YouTube session by THiNC Institute. I welcome you all and I wish you all a very happy new year. And we are discussing today about some of the questions that have appeared, for your Nift exam practice. Okay, so first of all, I would really like if you guys, could subscribe the Instagram and YouTube channel of THiNC Institute, so you can actually enjoy such wonderful sessions by many design veterans and experts. So let's begin with the today's session on this note. So again, welcome you all, and let's begin with the session. So we are gonna discuss a question that has been up here. Kind of questions have appeared, or these are for your practice. Okay, so I will just read this question out for you guys. Okay, so it's basically a scene drawing question, and we're gonna discuss in depth about this question. How do you approach towards such kind of a questions? What are the things that you should keep in your mind? How do you draw about these questions? What are things that you should hesitate or you should not do in the exams when you're appearing, or you're trying to resolve such questions? Okay, so the question is, imagine that you are driving your car on a busy narrow street on a Christmas night. You can see the shops on both the sides are decorated well and people are rushing through the street. Draw the scene as you seen from the car and use colors. Okay, so there are two tasks over here. So first of all, so I would always recommend students that read the questions very carefully. Sometimes there are some tricky parts, as there are multiple parts to question, like part A and part B. So first is like just to draw it, and part B is again they are mentioning that, so that there are some excuse me guys. So there is a part B, so that where you are supposed to color the section as well. Okay, whatever that you are drawing. So let's begin. Let's understand what all aspects that you should cover up in this or in your answer. Okay, and how do you narrate this question visually? That is the challenge, right? So first of all, let me mention a few things about simpler composition. Okay, so I hope it is visible to all of you. Now, for example, this is your question paper. This might appear in your exam, something like this. So this is the question. It would be mentioned over here. Okay, and the question is written like this. Sometimes you have a space that is provided for you guys to draw in. Now you can use any orientation of the question paper, not necessarily that you always have to draw it vertically. You can also opt for a the way that you can simply opt it, just turn your paper and probably opt it in a landscape way too. Okay, so completely drawing orientation is totally up to you guys. How do you deal with it? How do you draw it? Okay, so now once we are done, let's move on towards the second part, that is how we are supposed to compose it. So rather than starting to draw it immediately, I would say is make a small thumbnail about this entire sketch, okay, or the entire question. So I would rather first of all think about I would make there would be a lot of rough space that would be provided to you. So I would use a simpler make a frame, a smaller one, so where I just individually think about this individual idea. I would rather make rough sketch, make my visual about it, try to depict the flavor of the subject that is given to you, and try to make the most of it. So the question is, it's a busy narrow street on a Christmas night. So it's a night. Again, see, context is well established. Context is mentioned, so that it's a Christmas night. So Christmas night, that means obviously there are a lot of people on the streets. Even though in India, if you're showing the Indian context, it is a acquired festival. So, so nowadays people celebrate as a kind of a bigger festivity. So you see a lot of people celebrating this event. So you would be able to see a lot of decoration and celebrations and festivity, sort of or eventful or cheerful sort of decorations or sightings all over the street, around the streets, and people are enjoying the evening. They're out with their family, they're shopping or probably eating out or visiting restaurants or whatever, and probably they are spending time with their loved ones. So this is sort of a street, a view that you are supposed to create. You are supposed to create a flavor of this. Now, how would you be judged on this question, or what are the judging criteria for this question? Is first of all, obviously your drawing skills are quite important, but more than drawing skills, they would like to see that your observation power, how you have observed things, that when you walk around or you're walking around street in general, how you are able to analyze the things that you have seen, how you are able to implement these things in this frame, in this scenario, and how you are able to make that scenario look alive, bring it to life, and how do you show the flavor of whatever the event that has been mentioned. Okay, your sense of your scale and proportion through the figures that you add in the drawing, and the relativity with the architecture and the scenario and the context, which is the Christmas night. How do you establish a relation with all of these aspects is what will give you the maximum mark. So basically, that's your judging criteria. See, as a skill wise, it is fine. You're gonna develop it eventually, but understanding these basic concepts of relativity with your scale and proportion, perspective drawing, the depth that you're going to create, they're going to be considered as your judging criteria. Okay, so let's draw a small thumbnail first of all before we even eventually develop this. Right? Okay, so now what I'm going to do is, like, before I start drawing, just visualize this into some parts. Now we are sitting in the car, so first of all, forget that you are sitting in the car or whatever. I'm just going to think I'm in the crowd. I'm seeing all of this, or I'm experiencing this scenario by my own eyes. So I'm going to first of all draw my horizon in this frame at quite the down level, around this 1/3 of the bottom, so that I'm able to make a dynamic composition. And whatever, if you're using a 1-point perspective or even 2-point perspective, it is totally your choice. So I'm going to use, to keep it simpler, I'm going to use a 1-point perspective system, and I'm going to draw it. I'm going to keep my vanishing point over here. And I would just rather quickly, create some, just a grid, so that I'm able to draw and visualize things in it, so that my quick thumbnail is something, just depicts it. And same thing we would try to develop in my final drawing. Okay, so now this is it. I am seeing people, I'm in the car. So that means I'm sitting at slightly a lower level than people walking. So this is the height of the people who are walking on the street. I might be at this stage or at this level, or sometimes if I'm sitting in a bigger car, bigger vehicle, I'm almost at this sort of a stage where steering is in my hand and I'm sitting in the car, whatever. Okay. Okay, so this is just to visualize. So this is my horizon. Okay, so now I'm at the horizon. I see a busy street. I see a lot of decorations all over the place, and I'm also able to establish the context with the architecture. The beauty of the 1-point perspective is, simple, that you are able to understand. Okay, so I'm just gonna understand, how the street is gonna look like. So there are the shops. I'm able to draw the footpaths over here, around which people are walking around. So I'm just gonna draw people relative to my height, slightly bigger than my height. Sorry guys. Okay, so this is my, so I'm just first of all adding a little bit of visuals, people to just understand the depth of that question, or that that solution over here. Now then, I think this is a footpath. I obviously add few vehicles, as it's a busy street night, because there are a lot of people who are out on the streets. Probably even the vehicles have been decorated. Obviously you would be able to see a lot of Christmas trees, people put up next to their stalls, a lot of lighting, interesting lamps, okay, maybe hoardings of Christmas, and a lot of things. So I'm just simply using a grid of 1-point perspective system, and I'm trying to draw this concept. And obviously people are rushing through, so maybe there are people not carelessly, but yeah, obviously, in a curiosity and excitement by looking at the shops, they're crossing the roads. So this is sort of a scenario that we are trying to establish, we are trying to create. Fine, where you are obviously able to see that decorative nature and a lot of interesting new things that has obviously made this street itself more celebrated, more festive. Okay, a lot of people. So obviously, I would try to populate this area even more, even further, so that we are able to show that nature of that Christmas Eve night, whatever it is. Okay, so this is my basic thumbnail, and I'm going to eventually develop into a next stage. Okay, so which is my final drawing. So this is a basic sketch that we have just developed. Okay, fine. I would also like to mention that we have already started with a Nift SpeedX batch. And, if you really looking for the details that would be available in the live chat section, you can just follow it once you are done with this, or, you can just check in the live chat section right now as well. Let's go and let's draw this question. Let's resolve this question now, better view, better depth. So, okay, so this is the frame that I'm going to draw, and I'm going to obviously draw it because I want to draw it in a wider way. Okay. So this is a wider frame that I wish to create. So I'm going to draw it in this spectrum, this kind of a proportion. Okay. So I hope you guys are able to find the RapidX batch details. So it's there in the chat box. Okay, fine. So I'm gonna, like we have discussed, we are gonna draw this particular horizon. What is horizon? Again, where you are not able to see things beyond, or probably this is the relative reference line for your eyes. So this is my eye line, and this is the details that I see at my eye level. I'm going to fix a vanishing point around the 1/3 again, not purposely putting it at the center. So we have been discussing this in our sessions multiple times, but I just to make this dynamics, make the composition more dynamic, I'm not going to put the vanishing point at the center, or rather my vanishing line also at the center. I'm going to put it around the 1/3 of this entire composition, and I'm going to keep it over here. Next thing is what I generally or usually do is I draw a lot of grids or a lot of this perspective lines. So, I'm able to visualize and see things in it. I also recommend that you guys do the same, and it hardly takes any time, right? So and obviously it has to be very light, very rough. I'm just drawing it a little darker so that you guys are able to see it right now. Okay. So basically, we are just dealing with this. It's just to, see it. Just a moment. Just a second, guys. No, fine. So this is my this is the perspective that we are trying to create in, and I'm going to keep it uh, slightly lighter so that I'm able to draw in front of. Okay. So now this is my grid line, and this is where I wish to draw. So we have already created that key sketch, like in before. So now I'm simply going to start adding things. But before that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw, like I'm going to understand that people are walking over here. Okay. So I'm going to consider a height of people at particularly this sort of a horizon, where they are slightly taller than me because I'm sitting in a vehicle and people are walking. So rather than drawing and starting with the objects, I generally like to set the depth to my drawing. So what I usually do is I draw a lot of people, or probably add figures to understand that depth. Okay. So probably rather than drawing it over here, I would take that one person over here, which is at probably the mid ground of this walking towards the same goal, which is the focal point of my drawing. And I would rather add even a smaller figure so that now I am able to set the grandeur, that magnitude of my frame, and you would be able to see it very easily. Okay, the depth would be able to understand. Also, there is a flow, like like bigger to smaller, and again goes back to it. So we are able to create an interesting balance towards a focal point, right? Okay. Now just imagine, now this is a footpath that this person is walking around. Simply we are using a perspective grid that is there. Now this is a very wide street. Let's assume that the streets are quite wider. Again, obviously people are walking in the center of the street also because it's a Christmas. So I'm gonna keep it very interestingly wide enough, right? Quite wider road so that we are able to draw things in a nice and wider way as well. Okay, so basically just putting up some trees, just to add that dynamism to this frame. Okay, so obviously it is bigger. So this tree is quite closer to you, so we are able to see that. Okay, it's fine. Probably if you are drawing a context that is outside India, then in that case, like you can also put up a snow, and which is not very contextual to okay, which is not very contextual to our Indian scenario. But yeah, fine. You can, and obviously it is not mentioned that what sort of a context that you mentioned, whether it is India, whether it is abroad. So we can actually put up a lot of things over here. So again, this is, if you think this is happening at too much at the center, we can just take this off. We can place it somewhere else. But right now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna draw the shops, or probably that city streets line, which is gonna make it more interesting. I'm gonna introduce some interesting architecture. You just see as a shapes. Right now, just think about them as rectangles. Forget about the architectural details, but I'm just gonna understand like shops, probably even malls, or even two-storied, or bigger shops like this. You see, so we are actually able to put up something quite interesting over here. See, we are just understanding this entire perspective grid. I'm just drawing with the reference of the perspective grid that we have just created for ourselves. Okay. Now probably there are shops over here. Like as a very smart visual, I have added a tree over here so that I don't really have to draw too much on the left side. So, but it also gives the flavor of the that Christmas season. I can also draw things that are very far away, like probably, but in a very different plane though. But yeah, just simpler shapes, just to block. There might be a cityscape or building lines, but that is happening very far away, so that we can purposely draw it darker. Okay, maybe interesting cloud. mm, Okay, it is night, but yeah, probably we can populate it by a lot of different things at the beginning. But this is simple, interesting architecture that we are starting to add. Now, probably there are maybe trees over here, just decorated, like quite far away, but yeah, it is there. What's a street? What's a city street without adding and like electricity poles and probably. So I'm just adding that. Like maybe we can build it very interestingly in perspective. You see, simple straight lines, probably, so that you get to add a lot of advertisements on it. So that's the flavor of the street, right? You will be able to see a lot of hoardings, a lot of things that are just happening around it. Okay, and probably just using the perspective grid. You see, just to add this interesting elements. Now probably we have drawn very less people. So probably now the first thing I would like to add is like the bus. The bus is obviously drawing this with the proportion of a person, so that it is quite far away at the beginning, pushing it with some darker sort of values. Maybe some reflections I would like to add, as it is snow, so streets are moist, and I would like to add interesting reflection. So assuming that light is happening from the back side of it, you see, just easy reflections of it. Right now, we have not even populated it by. We're just seeing in a very simpler shapes, squares, rectangles, and circles. Okay. Next thing I would start with is like adding values so that you are able to set a depth. Now, probably I would like to go even in further. Like probably we would like to add more vehicles. Okay, which sets this. You know, but yeah, probably most interesting thing is now rather I would just add more details over here. So there is this group of people, okay, or a family maybe wearing some heavy winter clothes, crossing the road with a family. Maybe there is a kid, small kid, a girl, this lady who is. Yeah, so populate this now. What's a that's not a busy street. And see, as a people, you like when you're drawing people, you don't really have to draw a lot of details. Think about interesting silhouettes. As this person is closer to you, he or she can be added with a darker values so that it appears more closer. As they are going farther away, what we can simply do is we can use bit of a muddier or lighter values. So automatically this things, you see they're pushed quite farther away. Now adding like simpler details like vehicles. Okay, just use the perspective grid that you have created over here, right? And you'll be able to simply add. Okay, now simple boxes, and within the boxes we can create interesting elements. Okay, now try to add a lot of details, not a lot of details, but as simpler shapes. Now you would be able to see a lot of hoardings, like interesting hoardings made for the Christmas is especially, right? And you would be able to see a lot of values, like shops are brighter. So I would just add more contrast, you see, just simpler vertical lines so that, now we are blocking the shapes. Maybe interesting forms of writing over the hoardings, maybe some interesting 3D silhouette like you see on, some interesting lighting patterns set on streets like this spherical. Okay, add some equidistance. Obviously there are more like slightly farther away than this, not just making one but yeah, around this. So there's a lot of lighting and festive way of seeing things. Just adding shadows to this. Maybe there's a shop, a lot of people over here. Okay, just observe how we are using the perspective grid and how we are simply populating this, the footpath. Okay, we would add more people over here. Okay, we can definitely add more and more vehicles. Just think of them as boxes at the beginning. Okay, so you don't really have to worry about how do you create the details. We just add things more simply. Even we are drawing this more roughly, so because I'm speaking about it and drawing those details. Okay, adding some interesting shadows to this. Fine. Now probably what do you see? We are able to see some interesting details over here as well. Okay. Since it is closer, I'm gonna add more values over here. See it in a contrast. You don't even have to draw a lot many things, but you can definitely create things with more contrast. Okay. Now, obviously, like, a lot of kids are there on the street. So try to draw such kind of things with your observations. Okay. What's a Christmas, without people and kids, right? So majorly the entire family and people celebrate it, love to celebrate it together, right? So we just try to, and it's a night. So probably I can add some darker values. Okay. And maybe there is a brightness at this center. So I will keep brighter values. Maybe I'll start phasing out this values so that we understand that it is speaking towards the lighter section. Okay. Obviously, we are drawing it more roughly so that I'm able to speak about more ideas than drawing. But this is how you would be able to, and obviously draw a lot of silhouettes. Okay, people even at the farther distance see block shapes rather than obviously, and you won't be able to see the details at such farther level because details tend to be blur out, right? So rather draw the details just at the closer range. Okay. Okay. Not at the each stage of it. Okay. So probably there is a person who's maybe selling a lot of like maybe over here. And so probably keep at the mid section something more interesting. There's a person who's selling maybe balloons. Okay. So add visual ideas, and there are some hoardings above the buildings where people have like made like Christmas. So probably you see Santa Claus. So this tinier details that you are saying, showing, it is what will help you. Your understand, people will definitely understand your stronger visualization with this kind of a details. Okay, even this side, even though it is in a shadow, there will be this side of the wall. But yeah, now we are starting to add slightly more details to it. Not much, not many, but I'm understanding them as the simpler values. Okay, just to set the intensity of the values and depth in your work. We're adding some darker values so that this guy, this person, this family, whatever, is at the closest stage. Okay. See, slowly you would start putting up the values. Like obviously, I would create more. Okay, more and more people over here carrying a bag, walking on the street. So you can definitely add a lot many things in this one. But what is it? Is like obviously the lanterns, interesting lighting. Okay, is something Also, people will put up some fairy lights and there. Okay, the shops, the stalls over here, the Christmas trees. Okay, if there are more planters or smaller trees over here. So this is how I'm gonna populate it. I'm not gonna, probably let's just, and maybe this is things are quite at the farther distance. So I'm just putting out the values in it. Okay, I'm not drawing all the details. Okay, you see, maybe some towers and no, lot of things that are to be seen over here. Now I can start adding details in this one. Yeah, maybe these are closer, but also to populate the values. You see, the lamps, and maybe whatever the elements that you think that are more Christmas themed. So you can start adding them over here. Okay, make the perspective lines more visible. Okay, we can add. Like, okay. So definitely, this is what. we can, obviously people are walking towards you, seeing a lot of things happening in this. Okay. So this is what we try to do. And I would try to add, since this is closer, I would really love to add more contrast over things which are closer, right? So that is what will help you see them separately from the different things in the background. Okay, make it pop out. So I'm gonna add a lot of contrast over here. You see? Now suddenly you see these things happening very differently as they are like a very different and focal element of that situation. Okay, adding some simpler reflections. And this is how, guys, you would be able to simply set out the difference in your one. So probably we are implementing our daily understanding, daily observation, analysis, analytical skills into an implementation where you are able to, just see things in a more interesting way, and probably how you create the flavor of, you know, how do you make these things look more alive. And this is how you can do it. Simply shapes, masses, rather than drawing too many of details, simplify things. Simpler the information, it is easy to convey. Your drawing would be understood very quickly. The people who are judging it can also retain in their memory for a longer time. The moment you add simpler associations, emotions in your drawing. Okay. So this is how we can work on this sort of drawing questions very easily. I hope you enjoyed it. Okay. If you have any questions, any queries, any doubts, you can definitely ask me. But yeah, this is a very rough doodle, and this is how we can, like probably approach toward this sort of questions. Okay. So I think I'll stop over here by just adding just a very tiny and few details. This and like last detail, I think we just missed out is, drawing yourself. If you wish to draw yourself, you can just draw it over here, like just showing by that, you are sitting in the car and, you're observing basically you have your own steering in the hand, right? And whatever, it's a car that you are driving. So I see just my own hands who are, like basically driving. You just observe. We can just simply draw this detail by it. Okay. Even we can set up this entire windshield. Okay. Just observe. Now, instead of like, I can draw this detail, you see, we can simply wipe out like everything. And, just observe with the simpler details, we are able to isolate this information very easily. Okay. Just a minute. Okay. So this is the vehicle. Maybe this is the mirror of that vehicle. Okay. Again, depends on how you are creating the situation, right? So probably since it is very closer to you, very closer as in it is you, so your hands are the most closest. So I'm gonna see and would be able to see this information just in a very dark eye. So probably which has a very lesser amount of light that is present. Yeah. You see. So over here, maybe this is the A pillar of the car, so we are able to see through this. Okay. Very interestingly, we would be able to just isolate this information so easily. Now, with the car, you are able to see this sort of information. Okay. So, this is how, and simply what you can do is like you can just add some of the, you know, not draw things over here, or probably whatever the light that is reflecting on your in your car, in your on this sort of a details. This is what I'm simply trying to communicate to you. Okay. So this is how we can quickly understand things. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope it would be of greater use to you guys. So even like here, like objects which are obviously appearing very separately. Like maybe I can add some definitely a different value over here, and probably just so that is something appearing in the mirror. Even maybe that people who you have just passed, we're just trying to show them in the mirror over here. So try to apply that your daily s- observations, daily understandings that you do on a regular day-to-day basis. And that is what the question is all about. Are you able to, how are your observation skills? How you can implement the simpler information in your drawings, in your work. Okay, so this is what it really required from this sort of a question. And this is how it will help you uh, you know, better, and probably this is how you can create an interesting reflection of your thoughts in your mind. I hope it is clear. So I'll stop over here now, and I shall meet you soon in our sections. Till then, see you guys. Take care. Bye bye, and wishing you a very all the best for this exam, and happy New Year once again. Take care. Bye bye.